Hello YouTube, my name is Venator, and in today's video, we are on Petits Pieds EU server, growing another Tyrannosaurus Rex. And a lot of you guys have been asking for some longer videos, so today we are doing my longest video yet. I'm going to be taking you guys basically through this entire grow all the way to prime. It's going to be a little bit more in depth and show a little bit more of the journey and kind of the overall pathing and checkpoints that I try and make throughout this guy's grow. So I hope you guys really enjoy this video, and if you do, feel free to drop a like or comment below. And we're picking up this guy's journey a few hours in. I spawned in at swamp and proceeded to sit in a bush and fill up my food during low pop for the first few hours of this guy's life. After that, I made my way over to Delta. And that's where I found another Tyrannosaurus Rex. This guy was bigger than me, and as it turned out, he was an old friend. Tuggy and I, we had played together in the past, but it was kind of a 1 or 2 session thing, and then we went our separate ways until we actually just ran into each other right here and picked up right where we left off. Albeit that time, I was on Tyrannosaurus, but with the recent release of Rex, we both have been playing this a ton, and he was growing, so I was glad to pair up and have a battle buddy. That way, we could help each other out. It's always nice to have someone watching your back. And it definitely also really helps with those early food struggles. Having a bigger Rex to kill lone targets comes in handy. I was able to distract this dibble so Tuggy could close the gap and hit him with the crush bite. This was perfect timing. My hunger was getting pretty low, and this will fill me up, allowing us to continue on our journey. Getting a kill like this and being able to eat all the organs, filling your diets up, is huge. And as always, I took enhanced digestion for my first mutation. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, go check out my how to grow video on Tyrannosaurus Rex. I explained my process and exactly what I do step by step. I'll hit on some of the points during this grow, but enhanced digestion is a big one because it slows down your diet decay rate, which in turn allows you to grow that much faster, which size is everything when it comes to Rex. So you want to get as big as possible, as fast as possible. After we finished up that dibble, we decided to head north to water access. That way we could fill up our water before moving on. I always like to stay on top of it, and I typically don't ever let it drop below half unless I really have to, or I'm just a long ways away from a safe drinking spot. Unfortunately for dinos, there's just a ton of safe drinking spots. So if you know where to go, you're never going to have to even risk getting grabbed by a dino. And this spot here at Water Access is one of the more well-known spots, and you cannot be grabbed right there. Now, when the old Super Lunge was bugged and you had the insane distance and speed, it was possible. But now, it's just too much time to react and get out of the way. So after we filled up our water, it was time to leave Water Access and make our way over to the northern jungle area, where I would hit the sanctuary and get that prime requirement finished. After hitting the sanctuary, it was time to continue the search for food. At this point, I was about 1,600 kilos, and I was coming up on that big hunger drop, so keeping my food high was the top priority. And I found this adult Sarah, who had seemingly just fought something, and I was able to crush and put down very quick. After killing that Sarah, we made a few passes down in the lower lake area, and we didn't really find much and no corpses to scavenge and couldn't really smell anything, so it was time to move on. We decided we would leave the north side of the map and head over to the east side of the map. And as we were leaving North Lake, we were kind of at a crossroads. Do we continue east to port, or do we swing south, hitting the eastern jungles all the way down to Delta? And as you can see, we landed on port. This area is typically a pretty popular spot amongst herbivores. They like to nest here and just generally hang out around this area because it's a pretty out of the way spot that has generally a safe drinking spot. But luck was not on our side, and we didn't really find much of anything. There wasn't anything to scavenge, so we had to pretty much immediately leave and head north to the East Lake Sanctuary. This is where our luck finally turned a little bit, and I was able to find some corpses to scavenge and get my hunger back to a manageable level. One question I get on a lot of my Rex videos, or at least my last couple, is why am I walking away from the corpses when I grab an organ? And what's happening with this body right here is exactly the reason why. For whatever reason, occasionally, if you pick up an organ or out of a body on top of said body and try to eat it, it can cause it to bug, and it'll drop out of your mouth onto the ground next to the body, and then you won't be able to get any other organs out of the body like I wasn't able to there, and it just keeps flying the body around everywhere, and you have to settle for just eating the corpse. Unfortunate, but that is why I pull the organs out and walk away when I can, and I've just gotten in the habit of doing so. Sometimes it'll let you eat them on top of the body, no problem. You guys will see Tuggy do it a couple times in this video. It's just the habit I'm in because I've gotten really frustrated in the past not being able to get organs out to fill those diets up. Leaving Eastlake, we continued south towards the coast, where we could smell multiple things in the distance, so we went off on a scavenger hunt for corpses, just to see if we could find any easy diets. Then, with my water getting just past the halfway point, we decided to risk it and stop at Coastal Pond. Now, if you guys have seen some of my Dino videos, you know I've been hunting here, and other crocs have been as well. So I was pretty skeptical about stopping here, but I noticed the little dino just swimming around in the water, and I was like, well, you know what? Might as well risk it. I feel like he probably wouldn't be swimming in there or would be dead already if there was a croc in there. So I went ahead, yapped this guy up just to see if someone came out and lunged at me, and no one did. So we were able to fill up our water. After we filled up our water, we continued south and made our way through gate L15 and entered the Delta area. This is where we found this stego and thought we might be able to get an ambush off. I thought I could maybe do some damage and help fight this guy since I weighed just over 3 tons. But I was gravely mistaken. I went in and thought I would be able to bait that attack and just ate 2 swings right to the dome. I got very lucky that Tuggy was able to come in and attack the guy and save me. I got very hurt here and could basically do nothing to help Tuggy because I had to sit down. I didn't have traumatic yet, so if I didn't immediately sit, I would bleed out. So Tuggy was on his own. Fortunately for us though, the stego was not interested at all in fighting, and Tuggy disengaged and came over to heal with me, so we would both live to fight another day. But at least there was this little Sarah corpse, so I was able to add a little bit of food to my hunger, which hey, every little bit helps. Rex is kind of like Dino. Sometimes you just gotta eat whatever you can, even though it doesn't really do much for your diets or your overall growth. So after I ate that little morsel of food, it was back to the bush to continue healing. We eventually healed up enough to continue moving, and after our brush with death in Delta, we figured it probably best to leave that area. So we headed out back north through Eastern Jungle to see if we could make our way up towards the Hollow Falls area. And on the way, we got lucky and found a corpse in a bush. I couldn't tell exactly what it is, but it still had all the organs, so we ate what we could, and then we moved on. As we kept heading north, we came to Hollow Falls, where we crossed at the big bridge just before you hit the falls. Figured we might as well make our way back over to kind of the north and central sides of the map to see if we could find anything in the jungles. And shortly after, we smelled some bee in the distance, and when I got to the source, we couldn't believe it. A full prime Triceratops. This guy had either entombed or stored, leaving his enormous corpse behind for some lucky carnivores, which just happened to be us. I couldn't believe it. That one organ filled up my entire stomach and a good chunk of my bee diet. So we would sit here for as long as possible while we had this corpse and grow in safety. But as luck would have it, we got hit with a corpse cleanup. So we had to move on. Unfortunate, but hey, a meal's a meal, and to get your hunger to 100% with really good diets is an absolute win when you're growing a Rex. So we made our way up to Forks Pond to fill up our water. And just in case there happened to be a big dino in here, Tuggy, being the good friend he was body blocking for me. Although, if it was a skilled full prime in here, there's nothing that he nor I could have done to stop him from grabbing me. Just a risk you always take. Forks Pond, I typically feel like is empty a lot of the time, so I decided that it was worth the risk. After filling up our water, we continued north towards water access. But we didn't get all the way there because we stopped at this bridge that connects over to the central jungle portion of the map. With our hunger, at least at this moment, really full, we didn't see a ton of need to continue wandering around, so we figured we'd set up shop here and find out if we could ambush something in the next 20 or 30 minutes. Unfortunately though, nothing came by, so we decided it was time to move on, and we made our way west and south towards the Highland Lake area. This area is one of my favorite spots and a prevalent Rex hunting ground. It's a little sketchy to go to at this size because there's plenty of big things that can still kill you. Here, I'm just around that 4-ton mark, so I could easily get killed if I was alone. But since I had Tuggy, who was reaching his full adult size, we were a more formidable opponent. We really just had to watch out for 2 large Rexes or a big group of Stegos. Anyway, as we approached the lake, we smelled some Y, and it turns out there was a sea turtle drop. So Tuggy, since he was not grabbable anymore, went to the water, picked it up for me. And while it doesn't do a ton, any Y diet is appreciated. It always seems like it's the hardest diet to get. But anyway, after that, our water, well, was getting a little bit lower and we weren't having any luck in the Highland Lake area. So we figured we might as well head on down to another little hunting spot I like, Landslide Lake. I love Landslide Lake when I'm this size because it's just far enough off the beaten path that not many big Rexes or really big herbivores that they would want to hunt come through this area. It's a lot more mid-tiers that want a safe spot to drink where dinos can't grab them, which is another one of the reasons I'm coming here, so I can drink and not get grabbed. If you've ever played Croc in this pond, you know the spot exactly where I'm drinking because you can't get grabbed right here. But after filling up our water and sitting in the bushes waiting, we didn't really see or hear anything, and honestly we weren't in that patient of a mood, so we continued on to West Rail. This area is a prime hunting spot. Now, it's definitely one of the more dangerous areas, so if you're gonna go to West Rail and the plains around it at the size we are, just know that you're taking a fairly significant risk and you're not the top of the food chain yet. We got lucky and found a lone, smaller stego that Tuggy was able to absolutely decimate and help fill our food back up. And it doesn't always go this way. As you guys saw in my last Rex video, sometimes you're the ambushee. We thought we were going for a lone stego and we got just decimated by 2 bigger primes. Luckily for us this time, this guy was actually alone and it paid off. But it wasn't too long before we were back in hot water. Like I said, West Rail is a very dangerous area, and it wasn't long before a much larger Rex came out of the jungle just the same way we had, and he immediately started running towards us. So we both popped our ambush speed and it was time to stamina dump to try and escape. Having made it to the jungle, we could finally let up from the gas pedal just a little bit. Tuggy had eyes on him, and as soon as we entered the jungle area, it seemed like he was going to disengage and turn and head back to the corpse, but I wasn't going to risk it and find out if he changed his mind, so I urged us to press on and we continued into the jungle. Now you might be wondering why I'm running so far into the jungle and continuing to try and put as much distance between us as possible. And that's because a larger Rex has a much faster trot speed. They can walk you down. So even if you stand dump like I do here, it's important that you try and make as much distance as possible and find a good hiding spot. Because if they're tracking you, they can really walk you down for quite some time. Here, I didn't do that good of a job, but I was more confident that he wasn't going to follow us all the way this far into the jungle. After I found a good bush, we sat down to get our stamina back. Then, while I was waiting on Tuggy's return, I made my way over to Pygmy's Puddle, just a short distance from where we had laid down to get stamina. This puddle is one of my favorite ambushing spots, and you can have really good luck here. A lot of people come to this pond to drink, that way they can avoid West Rail. And at nearly 5 tons, I was just big enough to get lone targets down, like this little dibble that finally walked up just as dawn was breaking. This dibble will top my hunger off, and the rest of it I can use as bait while I continue to sit in my ambush area. There's several good bushes around this little puddle, so you don't have to sit in the same one if you don't want to. If you get a kill, you can feel free to move bushes or place bait around the area. Anyway, after that dibble, I didn't see another thing come to the puddle, so I started to wander around the jungle. And we thought we'd smelled some bee coming down towards West Rail, but it turns out it was bugged. And Tuggy and I had seen some stegos off in the distance, and since it was daytime, we didn't feel like risking walking out in the open and getting ambushed. So we made our way all the way around the field of West Rail through the jungle and came out on the other side just underneath the pond. What's great about this strategy is if you stay in the trees, nothing really knows where you're going or moving to, even if they spot you once or twice. When you come out from the jungle, you can use the hills around West Rail Pond combined with your camera to really scout and get a good lay of the land. And as you can see, by the time we did this, night had fallen and my hunger was basically almost in the red. Got really lucky and found this Maya corpse that got my hunger back up over half. And off in the distance, a pack of raptors was fighting a group of dibbles. And I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to top off our hunger. Since Tuggy didn't really get to eat any of that Maya, I wanted to see if either one, these raptors would kill the dibbles and we could steal them, or two, the raptors would keep the dibbles distracted enough that I could come in and kill them myself. And since I felt a little bad for killing all 3 of these guys, I didn't want to feel like the raptors got nothing for their troubles, so I grabbed the smallest dibble and walked him over to the raptor, who looks like he had taken a hit or two because he was not standing up. So I don't know if he was out of stamina or was just hoping that I would spare him. But either way, I walked up and dropped a body at his feet, and he gave me a couple nods. And with our hunger completely filled back up 100%, Tuggy and I decided to head back over to Landslide Lake and try our hand at some ambush hunting again. We set up in our respective bushes in front of the lake, and sure enough, it wasn't too long before we had our first customer. Tuggy called out that it was a Triceratops, so I started creeping my way over. That way, if he needed help, I was there to assist. But the trike ran right into him, and it turns out he wasn't an adult or a prime. He was still a growing sub-adult, so Tuggy was able to pin him and kill him instantly. And this meal will really help me out. I'm just shy of 8 tons, well on my way to prime. But this food will allow us to stay here and ambush hunt for as long as we want. And then shortly after, we had these Sarahs come up for a drink. I thought one of them would go left, and so I really started this ambush out pretty poorly. I couldn't really see him that well, and I just wasn't fast enough to catch this guy. I thought I was gaining ground, but I was a little preemptive with my crush bite, and I flubbed the attack. But like I said, that trike body would last us a long time, and I didn't really have to worry about my hunger drop. And that night, I was able to ambush a Carno, drinking at the water's edge. And the next day, I smelled a little corpse near this tree. So I went to investigate, and I found a little packy body. I picked it up and moved it out into the open and topped off. Always helps to get a little bit of diet whenever you have any room to do so. But what I did not expect was that there would be a dino in this lake. I heard something eating the bones of the packy that I had just devoured. And sure enough, a little croc had been in this lake and must have been hurting for food, because I feel like there's no way he doesn't see me pick up that packy and drop him and eat him. I tried to toss this guy, but I guess he was too big, or it just bugged. Anyway, I could use this guy's body for bait. Even though I didn't need the food, the organs, if you open up the corpse, can be smelled from a long ways off, hopefully drawing other carnivores to the area. And later that night, I had 2 baby Rexes run near my bush, so I figured I'd use the murder sprint and come out and give them a little fright. Always fun to mess with the small ones. But not long after, I had this very good sized stego who seemed to have a skin run right next to my bush. He was big enough for a good meal to last me all the way to prime, but small enough where I could still pin and kill him easily. And that kill would last us all the way to prime. It wasn't too much longer after that, during the next day cycle, that we hit our prime status. And so, at 9.4 tons, we were able to select our last two mutations. For my first two, I took enhanced digestion and efficient digestion. For my third and fourth, I almost always take osteo and then traumatic thrombosis. That way, it adds one more fracture before you get a leg break when you're fighting Rexes. And then the traumatic, that way after you fight a stego, you don't have to worry about bleeding to death. But anyway, that concludes this grow from a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex all the way to our prime status. Be sure and tune in next time to see all the additional killing and fun shenanigans that we pull as we hopefully get our next entombed Tyrannosaurus Rex. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all next time, and happy hunting.